ललितलोका त्राणय करुण गणगणात्वं संसारदाव न ललितलोका Praptasya kalyana gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhya Manasurasena Romanchakam pasru taranga bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shringaratanama Nirmajanado Juktasya Bhaktamsya Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Satvana Triptan Hari Bhakta Sangha Kridvaiva Tripte Bhajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Shiradikama Davayara Para Madhura Lila Gunarupanamna Shiradika Pratikshana Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Ne kunjayuno Ratike Lisidhyai Jajari Bhir Jukte Apekshaneya Tatrati Daksha Ati Balabhasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Sakcha Dharitena Shamasta Shashre Ruktas Tathava Vyataiva Sadave. Kintu Pravarja Priya Eva Tasya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi. Yasya Prasadam Nagati Kutapi. Dayam Stovam Tasya Yasa Trisandhya Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Vande Guru Shri Charanara Vrindam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Shatadine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Nityananda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Rama, Hariyaraye Namah, Krishna Jadavaye Namah, Hariyaraye Jadavaye Madhavaye Keshavaye Namah. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Vataraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasaraguna Shri Radha Nila Madhav Radha Nila Madhav Radhe Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadrama Jaya Sudarshan Chakra Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Jaya Sitaram, Sitaram, Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Pramande, Haribo. Jai Vishwapar Paramahansa Prabhajaka Acharya Sutara Sri Shishimar हिटुमान को सब भोजन बिना भक्ति विरंत समय महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि संस्थापक आचार्य वैष्णव शिरोमणि पतित पावन श्रील प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय श्री गौरिया गुरु वर्ग पतित उद्धार की जय श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सतगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासारि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय परम दयाल श्री नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तने के जना का प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद श्री गौरंग श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावृंदाय अवतार की जय गोल के प्रमधान हरि नाम संकीर्तन जग की जय जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय बृहत् दांग ट्रांसडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपना राधा कुंज समकुंज गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय टेलौश्री श्री श्री राधा नीलमाधव की जय श्री श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप एक चक्र धाम की जय परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु देव सुदर्शन चक्र भगवान की जय भक्ति सर्वविघ्न श्रृंगारे भगवान की जय श्री राम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय जगंगा माय जमुना माय की जय तुलसी महारानी वृंदी देवी भक्ति देवी की जय श्री मथुरा रानी की जय समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय निताय गौरदी प्रमानंदे all glory to the humble bodies, all glory to the humble bodies, all glory to the humble bodies, all glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru Shri Guru.
Namaste Narashinhaya
Namaste Narashinhaya
Prahlada Lada Daine
Prahlada Daine
Hiranyakashipur Vakshaha Shilatankana Kalaye
Shilatankana Kalaye
Ito Nasringha Parato Nasringha
Ito Nisingha Parato Nisingha
Yato Yato Yamitato Nasringha
Jato Jato Jamitato Nisingha
Bahir Nasringha Hridaye Nasringha
Bahir Nisingha Hridaye Nisingha
Narasingha Mardim Sharanam Prapadye
Narasingha Mardim Sharanam Prapadye
Tavakara Kamalavare Nagham Adbhuta Singham Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tano Bringam Keshavadrita Narahari Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Abakara Kamala Bare Naka Adabhuta Singha Dalita Iranyakasipo Tadavinga Isavadita Raviropa Jagadisha
Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare, Jaya Jagadisha Hare.
Jaya Kesavadita Nararirupa Jagadisha Re Jagadisha Re Jagadisha
Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha, Lakshmi Narasingha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha.
Jaya Nisingare Jaya Nisingare Jaya Nisingare Jaya Nisingare
Jaya Narsingha Dev, Jaya Narsingha Dev, Narsingha Dev, Jaya Narsingha Dev.
Jaya Nisingare Jaya Nisingare Jaya Nisingare Jaya Nisingare
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj.
Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Prahlad Maharaj
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanand.
Haribo. Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavataye Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavataye Namo Namaha. Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavataye Namo Namaha. Srimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai.
नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्णा प्रेयसी नमो नमः
तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी
राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
राधा कृष्ण सेवा पावो अभिलाषी
जे तुम्हारा शरण लो तारा वंच पूरा न हो
जे तुम्हार शरण ला तार वंश
कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी
तुम्ही कृपा करी करतरे वृंदावन वासी
मोराए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास
मोराए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दिया
नयने हरि वो सदा जुगल रूपरासी
अमिनायने दिवसर जुगल रूपरासी
ए निवेदना धारो साकीर अनुगाता कोरो
निवेदनाधार सकीरयनो गतकार
सेवाधिकारा दिए कोरो निज दासी
सेवायाधिकार दिए करनि जदासी
दीना कृष्ण दासे कोई जीना मोरा होए
न कृष्ण दास कौन ये नाम
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा जीना भासी
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा ये नवासे
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा जीना भासी
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा ये नवासे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मा हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादि Kanisa Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakti Napade Pade
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मा हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
Tani Kani Sapapani Brahmatyarikani Sa Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakshina Pade Pade
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मा हत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
Kani Kani Sapapani Brahmatyarikani Sa Tani Tani Pranasanti Pradakshina Pade Pade
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani
Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani
Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi
Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi
Nityai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nityai Gaura Hari Bol Nityai Gaura Hari Bol
Hari Bol
Hari Bol Nityai Gaura Hari Bol Srimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai
Jai Shri Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavataye Namo Namah Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavataye Namo Namah Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavataye Namo Namah Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. O Tulsi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to obtain the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you as wishes fulfilled, bestow your mercy upon him, you make him president of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower with them. Please give me the privilege before some service and make me your own met servant. His very fallen and lowly servant Krishna praise. May I always stream in love with Shri Radha and Govind. Shri Mati Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanam Arjanam Pavamada Agni Nirvapanam Shri Akari Vachandika Vitaranam Vidya Badu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Padipadam Purnamrita Sadanam Sarvatmasnam Param Pradhyati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bhakti Sarvashakti Prakita Niyamita Malina Kala Nidadu Sitva Varnavati Uthaivam Samyada Narati Sena Tarorati Savishna Amani Namanadena Kidaniya Tadamati Nahananana Sundari Puditambhagya Princhakari Mama Janmaita Marishware Bhakti Ainanda Panditangam Tamam Swami Bhavangulo Vipayata Parakam Nanam Kalashu Bharya Paranam Gatakarvanya Vira Ulakai Chitam Bhakru Kavanam Kavaneva Visati Vaditam Vishena Chakushatra Sharitam Shunyanitam Sarvam Govindavire Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtan, strength of heart with his dance like for years, and extinguishes the fire of conditional life for repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, for it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully test the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govind. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rules to chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once we chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself the Lord and stroll in the street, one should be more tolerant than the street, devoid of all sense of false prestige. We should be ready to offer our respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. Only one because of devotion service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet some of other unfolding this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, or will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? Or will my voice choke up? And will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he should remain so, even if sun doesn't roughly his embrace, or makes me broken hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, but he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri 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 Kestakam Ki Jai. Om Hare. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Blaspheme the body is dedicated life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the names of demigods and Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. Blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of Vedic devotion. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities in strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are from Vedas as spiritual activity. Karma Kanda. 9. Instruct the friendless person with the glories of the holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names
and to maintain material attachments even after understanding
so many instructions in this matter. It's also an offense to be retained to work chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guide against the stand of senses in order to quickly achieve desires of success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer some obeisance since all the Vaishnavas, the Lord, they are just like desire trees that could fulfill the desires of everyone,
and
and
their
therefore
full
like compassion
compassion
the fallen in the souls.
Kripa Sindhu Devicha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vaishnava Thakur. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Janmadasya Yato Nivayad Itaratas Charte Swavigyaswarat. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye Muyanti Yatsurayaha. Tejo Varimudam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Sargo Misha. Dam Nasvena Sadani Rastakuhakam Satyam Param O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva.
O all-pervading personality, God.
O all-pervading personality.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I offer my respectful obeisances.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the
and the primeval cause of all causes.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
Of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of
The original living being.
the original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into
As one is
illusion.
bewildered by the illusory
As
representation
one is bewildered by the illusion
of water, seen on fire, or land seen on
water,
water.
and the fire of the land, and the
Only because of him do the material universes,
only because of him do the material
temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature,
temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes
appear
of nature,
factual although they are unreal.
appear factual, although
I
they
therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
are therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
who is eternally existent, is transcendental,
which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
which is forever free from the illusory representation of
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him for he is
Dharma Pujita Kaitravotra
Dharma Pujita Kaitavutta
Paramo Nirmatsanam Sitam
Brahmo Nivasa
Vedyam Vastavam Atravastu
Vedyam Vastavamastu Vastu
Shivadam Tapa Trayamu
Shivadam Tapo Tremana
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite
Srimad Bhagavati Mahamuni
Kimva Purer Ishvara Sadyo Hridaya Varudyate Tra. Kriti Bihi Susubistakshana. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth,
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure.
The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The highest truth, the reality distinguished from illusion.
Such truth uproots the threefold
Such
mysteries.
truth uproots the threefold mysteries.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in its maturity
This beautiful Bhagavatam compared with the sage Vyasadeva
is sufficient in itself for God
It's
realization.
sufficient itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other?
What is the need of the other?
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
by this culture of
by this
knowledge,
culture of knowledge,
the Supreme Lord is established within his
the
heart.
Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpaturur galitam phalam,
Nigama kalpatoro galitam
sukhamukha amrita dravya samyatam,
Shukamukharam Vikrasam
pibata Bhagavatam rasam layam, muhur aho rasika bhuvi bhavaka.
Mora Hora
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired true Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Shishukadeva.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this food has become even more tasteful.
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectarian juice was all relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including the British souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna,
Shambhatam Swakata Krishna.
Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hirdiantak Stohid Vadrani, Vidunati Srit Satam. To hear about Krishna from Vedic literature, or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend, and purifies the devotee who constantly engaged in hearing of him.
And purifies the words constantly engaged in him.
Nastapresu Abhadresu
Nastaprisha Vadi.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
And this way they would naturally develop dormant transcendental.
As he hears more about Krishna from the devotees, as he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavad
and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Tadarajastamo Bhava Kamaloba Dayaschaye Chaitayataranabhidam Stitvam Sattve Prasidhati. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lust and avarice are diminished. Evam prasana manaso
Evam Prasanna Mana
Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha
Bhagavad Bhakti Yoga
Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam
Bhagavad Tattva
Mukta Sangasya Jayate.
Mukta Sangha Sijaya.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are wiped,
the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
and they remain steady position,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
become relevant,
and understands the science of God perfectly.
and understands the sense of God.
Vidyate Hridaya Grantis,
Vijate Udaya Ganti
Chidyante Sarvasamsaya,
Chidyante Savasam
Shiyante Jasya Karmani,
Chidyante Sishakar.
Justa Evat Maniswari. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the heart not of material affection, and enables one to come at once to the stage of samsayam samagram, understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Shri Guru Vastika prayers ki jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it. So the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind.
Because he's relishing the mellows of pure devotion within him.
Sometimes his hair stands on end.
Sometimes his hair stands.
He feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves.
His eye like waves.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
Offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lord of such a spiritual
The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna.
The spiritual master is also engaged in the temple worship of Sri Radha.
He also engages his disciples in such worship.
He also engages disciples in such
They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments,
beautiful
clean their
clothes,
temple,
cleanse
and perform other similar worship of the Lord.
and perform other similar worship.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
Listen to the Lord of such spiritual.
The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food.
The spiritual master is also offering Krishna for kind delicious food.
Analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked.
And that's that which is licked, chewed, drank, and sucked.
When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada,
When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating well,
he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava, and their qualities, names, and forms.
and equality in them and form.
The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
Offer my respectful obeisance to the Lord of such.
The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting the gopis who at different times take different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my most humble obeisance unto the Lord of such a spiritual master.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he's the most confidential servitor.
This is acknowledged in all real scriptures and followed by all authorities.
This is acknowledged in all the real scriptures and followed by all.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna.
Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisance to the Lord of such a spiritual master who is the bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master. At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Nadiraja Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarna Karanam.
Chintamani Prakarasadma Sukalpa Vriksha
Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa
Laksavrite Susurabir Abhipaliantam
Lakshya Vitesh Surabhi Rabhipaliam
Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambrahma Sevyamanam Laksavrite Susurabir Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Konantam Aravinda Dalayataksam Parhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Visesa Sobham Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandrakala Sadvanamalya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam Shyamam Jibanga Lalitanya Taprakasam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayoratapi Manaso Muni Pungavanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadasim Yavichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatam Jagadanda Kotim Yat Shaktirasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayana Bhusaha Suktaryameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Vis Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Taya Kalami Goloka Eva Nivasatya Kilatma Bhuto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santak Sadeva Hidayesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukalani Yamena Tistan Nana Avatara Makarod Bhuvane Sukintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramaha Pumanyo Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagaranda Koti Kotis Rasesu Vasudadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahmaniskalam Anantam Ashesha Bhutam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Maya Hiyasya Jagaranda Satani Sute Tragun Yatad Vishay Veda Vitayamana Sattva Valambi Parasatvam Visuddha Sattvam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmataya Manasu Ya Praninam Pratipalam Smaratam Upetya Vilayatena Bhuvanani Jayat Yajasram Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nichidamni Tale Chatasya Devi Mahesa Haridama Sute Sutesu Tete Prabhava Nijaya Vitaschayena Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shasti Stati Pralaya Sadhana Sakti Reka Chayeva Yasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Apiyasya Chachesta Tesa Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shiram Yata Dadivikara Visesa Yoga Sanjayate Nahitata Pritakasti Hetaho Yasambutam Apitata Samapaiti Karyat Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dipachareva Hitasantanam Abhyapetya Dipayate Vivita Heta Samanu Dharma Yastadvageva Hicha Vishnu Taya Vibhati Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narna Vajale Bhajatisma Yoga Vidramananta Jagadanta Saroma Kupaha Adhara Shaktim Avalambya Param Swamurtim Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaika Nisvasitakalam Atavalambya Jivanti Loma Vilaja Jagadandanataha Vishnur Mahan Sahiya Yasya Kalavishesho Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Basman Yatasma Sakalesu Nijesu Tejaha Swiyam Kiyat Prakatiyat Apitadvatatra Brahma Ya Esa Jagadanda Vidanakarta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvandve Pranama Samayesu Ganadi Rajaha Samayesu Vignan Vihantam Alamasya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganam Ambu Maruti Sascha Kalasta Tatma Manasitti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Vishanti Yamcha Govinda Mahadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savita Sakalagrahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Seste Raja Samasta Suramurti Rasesa Tejaha Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrita Kala Chakro Govinda Mahadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nichaya Sutayastapamsi Pramadikita Patakavatayasta Jivaha Yadata Matra Vipava Prakata Prabhava Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopam Atavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhan Rupa Falabhajana Matanoti Karmani Nidahati Kintuja Bhakti Bhajam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Kru Dakama Sahaja Pranayadi Biti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gora Vasevya Bhavahai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Tanamapurete Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kalpataravo Druma Bhumish Chintamani Ganamayi Tuyam Amritam Kata Ganam Natyam Gamanam Apivam Sipriyasaki Chid Anandam Jyotipuram Apitat Asvatyam Apicha Sayatra Shiradi Bhi Shravati Shurav Bibhyas Chasumahan Nime Sardakyuva Vajati Nahiyatra Pisamaya Vajay Srita Dvipam Tamaham Iha Golakam Itiyam Vidantaste Santakshiti Viravachara Katipaye Shishopanishad Ki Jai Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudasate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevadishya
Ishavaishamidam Sarvam Jakinja Jagatyam Jagatena Taktena Bunjitaha Magridaka Ragridaha Krishnasviddanam
Ishavashamidam Sarvam Yakincha Virakacham Jagat Tena Chatena Bunjitama Vidakasa Svidana
Kurvan Eva Karma Nij Jiva Chekchatam Samaha Evam Twayi Nanyatetostina Karma Lipite Nare
Upanegriha Karmani Jivivisek Chantasama Evam Trayi Najyati Tusti Nakarmalikyati Nare
Asurya Namate Loka Andena Tamasavritaha Tamste Pratya Bhigachanti Eke Chatma Hano Janaha
Asura Namate
Anicca kamana soja viyo nena devam apravam asata davato jnana teti tista tasmin apo mata viswadadati. Tad ejati tad nejati tad dure tad vantike tad antarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasya tasmin apo. I'm sorry. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmeva budvin. No, let's see. Tam tasmin apomata viswadadati. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah. Tad ejati tad nejati tad dure tad vantike tad antarasya sarvasya tadu sarvasya syabhayataha. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani evanupasyati sarvabhute suchatmanam tato na vijigupsate. Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmeva budvijanataha tatrako mahakaha sukha ekatvamanapashyataha. Saprayagat chukamakayam avranam asnavinam sudam apapavidam kavir manisi paribhusvayam bhu yatatat yatoratan vyadadas chasvatipyaha samabhyaha. Antam tamaha pravisanti ye vidyam upasyate tato bhuyai vate tamo yayu vidyayam rataha.
Anandam tama pravisanti ye vidyam upasyate tato bhuya ivate tamo yayu vidyam rataha.
Anyadevahur vidyaya anyadahura vidyaya iti sushrumadiranam yenastad vijachaksire.
Anirbhavu vidyaya anyadahura vidyaya iti sushrumadiranam nayatad vijachaksire.
Vidyam cha yas tadvedo vayam saha vidyaya militum titya vidyayam ritamasnute.
Tarivan vidyaya saha avidyam amritum kyukva vidyat mamritam asnute.
Andam tamaha pravisanti ye sambhutim upasyate tato bhuyavate tamo yayu sambhutam rataha.
Anam tama pravisanti ye asamputim upasyate tato bhuya ivate tamo yau asamputyam rataha.
Anyadevahur sambhavat anyadahura sambhavat iti sushrumadiranam yenastad vijachaksire. Sambhutim cha vinasam cha yastad vedo vayam saha vinasena minitum tidva sambhutam vritamasnute.
Sambutim cha vishanatam yastati vadabayam saha vinasena mrityum chitva sambutam ritamasmiti.
Hiranmayana patrena satyasya pitam mukam tatvam pusam apavrinu satyadharma yadristaye.
Hiranmaya yena
Satyasya
patrena
pitam
satyatavitam mukam tattvam pusham avavinu satyadharma siddhasya.
pusani kaseyama suryat prajapatya vyuharasmi samahatejo yate rupam kalyanatamam tate pasyami yo savaso purushaha sohamasmi.
Kusani kashati masura prajapatya yut asmin samahatejo tate rupam katyanatamam tate pasyami yosat aso purushaso hamsmi.
Vayuranilam amritam atedam basmantam sharinam om krato smara kritam smara krato smara kritam smara.
Vayuranilamamritam adidam prasmatam shariram om kritushmara kritam smaram kritushmara kritasmara.
Om Agnenaya Supatare Asman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidvan Yo Lasmas Juhuranamino Puyastam Te Nama Uktim Vidima Om Tatsat.
Anenaya supataraye asman vishwandeva abhiyanyani vidvan yodi sasmi jurdanam eno bhutisham te nama uktim videma.
Shrimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, text number 10. Nabir asav Rishaba asasudevi sunur. Yovai chachara samadrik jadayogacharyam. Yet paramahamsam vishayapadam amananti. Swastak prasanta karana parimukha sangha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord appeared as the son of Sudevi, the wife of King Nabi, and was known as Rishabhadeva. He performed materialistic yoga to equibalance the mind. This stage is also accepted as the highest perfectional situation of liberation, wherein one is situated in oneself and is completely satisfied. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Out of many types of mystic performances for self-realization, the process of Jada Yoga is also one accepted by authorities. This Jada Yoga involves practicing, becoming like a dumb stone and not being affected by material reactions. Just as a stone is indifferent to all kinds of attacks and reattacks of external situations, similarly, one practices Jada Yoga by tolerating voluntary infliction of pain upon the material body. Such yogis, out of many self-infliction methods, practice plucking out the hairs on their head without shaving and without any instrumental help. But the real purpose of such Jada Yoga practice is to get free from all material affection and to be completely situated in the self. At the last stage of his life, Emperor Rishabhadeva wandered like a dumb madman, unaffected by all kinds of bodily mistreatment. Seeing him like a madman, wandering naked with long hair and a long beard, less intelligent children and men in the street used to spit on him and urinate on his body. He used to lie in his own stool and never move, but the stool of his body was fragrant like the smell of fragrant flowers, and a saintly person would recognize him as a Paramahansa, one in the highest state of human perfection. One who is not able to make his stool fragrant should not, however, imitate Emperor Rishabhadeva. The practice of Jada Yoga was possible for Rishabhadeva and others on the same level of perfection, but such an uncommon practice is impossible for an ordinary man. The real purpose of Jada Yoga, as mentioned here in this verse, is prashanta karana, or subduing the senses. The whole process of yoga, under whatever heading it may be, is to control the unbridled material senses and thus prepare oneself for self-realization. In this age, specifically, the Jada Yoga cannot be of any practical value, but on the other hand, the practice of Bhakti Yoga is feasible because it is just suitable for this age. The simple method of hearing from the right source, Srimad Bhagavatam, will lead one to the highest perfectional stage of yoga. Rishabha was the son of King Nabi and the grandson of King Agnidra, and he was the father of King Bharata, after whose name this planet Earth was called Bharatavarsa. Rishabhadeva's mother was also known as Meru Devi, although her name is mentioned here as Sudevi. It is sometimes proposed that Sudevi was another name of King Nabi, but since King Rishabhadeva is mentioned elsewhere as the son of Merudeva, it is clear that Merudevi and Sudevi are the same person under different names. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Lord appeared as the son of Sudevi and the wife of King Nabi, and was known as Rishabhadeva. He performed materialistic yoga to equibalance the mind. This stage is also accepted as the highest perfectional situation of liberation, wherein one is situated in oneself and is completely satisfied. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So Jhana Yoga is not really practical, or it's not suited for Kali Yuga, but Bhakti Yoga is, and that's an important point. And the basis of Bhakti Yoga, or the beginning and the sustenance of Bhakti Yoga, is this Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and repeating. It's extremely important to be performed on a daily basis. So, as Prabhupada says, this Jhana Yoga, or what Rishabhadev did at the end of his life, is an uncommon practice, and it is impossible for an ordinary man. Okay. However, the real purpose of Jhana Yoga is prasantakarana, or subduing the senses. The whole process of yoga, under whatever heading it may be, is to control the unbridled material senses and thus prepare oneself for self-realization. So, this is very important. This is the exact perfection of path of yoga. And this is explained also in the 6th chapter, verses 13 and 14, where it says, Sucho dese pratistapya stiram asanam atmanaha nat uchtritam natinicham chailajjina kusottaram tatraika gram manakritva yata chitendriya kriya upavish yasane yunjyad yogam atma visudaye. Okay, so to practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusa grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be attained in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point. Okay, so this is the practice of traditional yoga, not the bogus yoga that's practiced today, because first of all it says that it has to be performed in a sacred place. Usually in India, those are holy places, and such as Prayag, or Mathura, or Vrindavan, or Rishikesh, or Haridwar, and it's solid and in solitude. So one should be alone or away from the mass of people and practice yoga where the sacred rivers like the Yamuna and the Ganges flow. Then Prabhupada says, but often this is not possible, especially for Westerners. The so-called yoga societies in big cities may be successful in earning material benefit, but they are not at all suitable for the actual practice of yoga. One who is not self-controlled and whose mind is not undisturbed cannot practice meditation. Therefore, in the Brihad Naradiya Purana, it is said that that in Kali Yuga, the present Yuga or age, when people in general are short-lived, slow in spiritual realization, always disturbed by various anxieties, the best means of spiritual realization is chanting the holy names of the Lord. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nameva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatiranyata. In this age of Kali, or in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There's no other way There is no other way. There is no other way. So, the the process in Kali Yuga is made very easy, as was explained before by Lord Chaitanya, and there are benefits in Kali Yuga that were not available before. Number one benefit. Previously, if you thought of sinful activity, you would get the karmic reaction just by thinking about it. But in Kali Yuga, this is one dispensation given by the Lord, that you have to actually perform the sinful activity in order to get the karmic reaction. That just thinking about it in Kali Yuga, you don't get the sinful reaction. And secondly, in Kali Yuga, just thinking about doing devotional service, you get the benefit, even if you don't do it. Whereas previously, you would have to engage in the devotional service to get the benefit. So you have two things that are very favorable for weak devotees like us. That is, that you're not held responsible by the laws of karma if you think about doing nonsense. You have to actually do it. And number two, even thinking of doing devotional service, you get the result of it. You don't, even if you don't do it physically. So, not that we want to exploit these in a wrong way. When there are what's called dispensations or special favors given in an age, it's not to exploit it in order to be a nonsense. It's to take shelter of it and make steady devotional service. Okay, so in the 6th chapter, 13th and 14th verse, the goal of life is explained, and the goal of yoga, let's say. And it says, one should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. So, these two verses, text 11 and 12 of the 6th chapter, and 13 and 14, explain the proper way of performing yoga. And in the purport, Prabhupada writes, the goal of life is to know Krishna, who is situated within the heart of every living being as Paramatma, the four-handed Vishnu form. The yoga process is practiced in order to discover and see this localized form of yoga, and not for any other purpose. The localized Vishnumurti is the plenary representation of Krishna dwelling within one's heart. One who has no program to realize this Vishnumurti is uselessly engaged in mock yoga practice and is certainly wasting his time. So now we see that all these yoga societies nowadays, they're just wasting their time doing nonsense, physical exercises. And they say it clearly. So this is not religious in any way. It's just for health, for well-being. And we've seen that. We've looked up the meaning of yoga, and it explains it's some Hindu practice for well-being of the body and health and blah, blah, blah. So they've completely degenerated the whole meaning of yoga and made it into some kind of physical exercise. So people doing that, Prabhupada calls it mock yoga practice, are certainly wasting time. Then he says, Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and the Vishnumurti is situated in one's heart as the object of yoga practice. Now, this is a very important sentence, because now we see there is some differentiation between Krishna and Vishnu. His expansion is Vishnu. The Vishnu expansion is the goal of the yogis, but the ultimate goal of life is Krishna. Now, if you go to the Sri Vaishnavas, they have it backwards. They say that Narayan is the ultimate goal of life, or Vishnu is the ultimate goal of life, and Krishna is the super soul that you can meditate on in yoga. So it's crazy how people, skew things through their own speculation. But here it's very clear that Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and the Vishnu Murti, which is situated in one's heart, is the object of yoga practice. To realize this Vishnu Murti within the heart, one has to observe complete abstinence from sex life. Therefore, one has to leave home and live alone in a secluded place, remaining seated as mentioned above. So, we see that complete abstinence from sex is essential if one wants to go back to Godhead and make spiritual advancement. Now, if a person is married and they have sex in order to procreate children who they take the responsibility to train in Krishna consciousness, they are still considered brahmachari. Still considered brahmachari. But if they have sex for pleasure, then they're fallen. So we see one thing in a restricted sense is Krishna conscious, and the same thing unrestricted is sinful. So one cannot enjoy sex life daily at home or elsewhere and attend a so-called yoga class and thus become a yogi. One has to practice controlling the mind and avoiding all kinds of sense gratification, of which sex life is the chief. In the rules of a celibacy written by the great sage Yajnavalkya, it is said, Karmana manasa vacha sarva vastasu sarvada sarvatra maituna tyago brahmacharyam prachaksate. The vow of brahmacharya is meant to help one completely abstain from sex indulgence in work, words, and mind at all times, under all circumstances, and in all places. No one can perform correct yoga practice through sex indulgence. Brahmacharya is taught, therefore, from childhood when one has no knowledge of sex life. Children at the age of 5 are sent to the Gurukula, or the place of the spiritual master, and the master trains the young boys in the strict discipline of becoming brahmacharis. Without such practice, no one can make advancement in any yoga, whether it be jnana, or bhakti. One who, however, follows the rules and regulations of ordinary married men, having a sexual relationship only with his wife, and that also under regulation. That means the regulation is once a month, and outside of the period of menstruation, and only for procreation. Therefore, such a person is a man is also called a brahmachari. Such a restrained householder brahmachari may be accepted in the bhakti school, but the jnana and dhyana schools do not even admit householder brahmacharis. They require complete abstinence without compromise. In the bhakti school, householder brahmachari is allowed controlled sex life because the cult of bhakti yoga is so powerful that one automatically loses sexual attraction, being engaged in the superior service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita 2:59, it is said, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasapiyasya paramdrisva nivartate. Whereas others are forced to restrain themselves from sense gratification, a devotee of the Lord automatically refrains because of superior taste. Other than the devotee, no one has any information of that superior taste. Okay, so there's so many wonderful points here, and we cannot really understand Krishna consciousness unless we follow it strictly as is being described in these verses. Then again, In the 3rd chapter, 13th and 14th verse, more is explained, where it says, Yajnartar Kamanon Yacha Yajna Sistantina Santo Muchante Sarva Kilbasai Bunjate Te Twagam Papa Ye Pachanti Atmakarana. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. Okay, so that's why we are asked to eat only Mahaprasadam. And also in the 6th chapter, 16th verse, it says, Nastyas asnatas tu yogosti nachait kantam anasnata nachati swapna silasya jagrato naivacharjuna. There's no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, or Arjuna, if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. So here, and then the next one, yukta hara viharasya, yukta chetasya, karmasu, yukta swapna vabodasya, yogo bhavati dukkha. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So, in other words, it's not just refraining from sex, but it's also regulating all our activities, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Then, if we regulate according to the principles of Krishna consciousness, we make very tangible and very quick spiritual advancement. And even though we're not perfect in every way, by this complete dependence on the Lord, by understanding what our position is in this world, is to render service to the Lord, we're saved by the Lord himself and go back to Godhead. There's no more birth, death, old age, and disease. You don't have to have sex to procreate. You don't have to procreate. Everyone's eternal. So we see that there's a very, let's say, complete explanation of the real meaning of yoga, and it is summarized in the following way. It says, let me just see where this is. Jeez, where is that? Yeah. Yes, mat chitta, mat para, and mat stam san. So, mat chitta means that one is always focusing the mind on Krishna. And matpara means, or matchita means focusing the mind on Krishna as the ultimate goal of life. And matpara means that the ultimate goal is to know Krishna. And matstan stam is to go back to Godhead in the spiritual world. So these are the real purpose of yoga. And without understanding this, one remains incomplete in their devotional service. So this is explained also in the 18th chapter, 58th verse. Much chitta sarvadurgani mat prasada tarishyasi. So it says, if you become conscious of me, that is mat chitta, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. Okay, and mat prasada means by the mercy of the Lord. So, becoming conscious of the Lord, by the mercy of the Lord, one attains the abode of the Lord in the spiritual world. So this is the summary of the goal of yoga. Right? Okay, so then lastly, it says here, extravagance in the matter of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, which are demands of the body, can block advancement in the practice of yoga. In other words, overdoing these things are definitely obstacles to making spiritual advancement. As far as eating is concerned, it can be regulated only when one is practiced to take and accept prasadam, sanctified food. Lord Krishna has offered, according to the Bhagavad Gita 9:26, vegetables, flowers, fruits, grains, milk. And in this way, a person in Krishna consciousness becomes automatically trained not to accept food not meant for human consumption or not in the category of goodness. As far as sleeping is concerned, a Krishna conscious person is always alert in the discharge of his duties in Krishna consciousness, and therefore any unnecessary time spent sleeping is considered a great loss. Avyarta kalatvam, a Krishna conscious person cannot bear to pass a minute of his life without being engaged in the service of the Lord. Therefore his sleeping is kept to a minimum. His ideal in this respect is Srila Rupa Goswami, who was always engaged in the service of Krishna and who could hardly sleep more than 2 hours a day, and sometimes not even that. Thakur Haridas would not even accept prasadam, nor even sleep for a moment without finishing his daily routine of chanting with his beads 300,000 names. As far as work is concerned, a Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not connected with Krishna's interest, and thus his work is always regulated and is untainted by sense gratification. Since there is no question of sense gratification, there is no material leisure for a person in Krishna consciousness. And because he is regulated in all his work, speech, sleep, wakefulness, and all other bodily activities, there is no normal misery for him. Okay, so we see how Prabhupada and our Vaishnava Acharyas have made it very clear what is Krishna consciousness and how to practice it. And if we do that, then we get the benefit of mat chitta, mat para, and mat stamsam. That is, understanding what the ultimate goal of life is, having the mercy of Krishna, and attaining the spiritual world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Are there any questions? Yes. Samstam. Okay, I'll tell you where that is. 1 second. Okay, 6th chapter, 13th and 14th verse. It explains Manaksam yamya mat chito yukta asita mat para. So this mat chito means concentrating the mind on Krishna. Mat para means the ultimate goal of life, which is Krishna. And then mat samstam is in 6:15, and it means attaining the spiritual kingdom of Krishna. Good. Haribol. Yeah. Samstam. 6:13. Oh, I see why. All right. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.